He's the maid.
Hollywood's golden era had some of the darkest tragedies, so today we're looking into the definitive cases of child stars smothered by the system, Hollywood, even after one already paid the price to try and save them all. Anissa Jones and Dana Plato, two bright lights who burned out way too soon, but decades before them, Jackie Coogan was the original cautionary tale, which begs the question. If his nightmare was so traumatic that we created laws to stop it from happening again, then why did it happen again and again?
See the engraving on the trigger guard? Solid silver.
The rise and fall of Anissa Jones. Anissa Jones, man, if you were watching Family Affair in the late 60s, you couldn't help but love her. That little girl with the pigtails and her Mrs. Beasley doll, she just lit up the screen.
Mrs. Bowers?
Yes?
I'm Buffy Davis. I live around the corner.
But behind the scenes, it wasn't all giggles and gumdrops. Anissa was just 6 years old when Hollywood sank its teeth into her and didn't let go. Well, that is, until they had sucked her dry. What's worse is that the family uprooted their life in Charleston, West Virginia to move to Los Angeles for little Anissa's acting career. Yay. Just imagine, 1 second you're a little 6-year-old kid with the only worry in your mind being what cereal to eat, when the next moment you're late to the first day of work for a cereal commercial.
Learned it's okay not to wear clothes if you live in a museum.
Her life was normal no more, and she didn't recognize anything about her life as home anymore. She had no home. Then 2 years of commercial gigs and relentless auditioning. Of course, all thanks to Mommy Dearest. We're talking close to 24 commercials. Her schedule was grueling. Now throw in her big break, the most exciting moment of her life. It should have been. Anissa is now 8 years old and a mainstay on a hit 60s TV show, Family Affair. This should have been a jubilant time in her life, celebrated with family and friends.
Jody!
But sadly, this little girl didn't see it that way and didn't have a support system at all. Anissa worked 7 days a week, either filming or promoting Family Affair, and when asked about going to set day in and day out, Anissa said, quote, "Shooting is work. I like going to my own school better. I see my friends there." I mean, dang, that's pretty freaking sad. But was being overworked by Hollywood the only issue with Anissa's otherwise happy life? No, not by a long shot. Remember that loving mom who wanted nothing but her daughter to be happy and successful? Well, shocker, all that rote auditioning was solely for mom's benefit. And dad wasn't much help. The family's move to LA was the final nail in the coffin for the shaky marriage between Anissa's mom, Mary Paula, and her father, John Paul Jones. Yeah, not that John Paul Jones. And Anissa's life began to spiral further out of control because of a bitter custody battle between her parents over Anissa and her younger brother, Paul.
Could you get along without me, Uncle Bill?
Nope.
One in which her father eventually won custody, but then her father would die. So did that mean a reunion between Anissa and her boss mom? No. Following her father's death, Anissa began spending more time away from home. Her mother reported her as a runaway, leading to Anissa spending several months in juvenile detention. The young actress became a ward of the court. This famous little girl, with all her earnings locked away, her every move managed by adults around her that none of which even seemed to care about her, was just going through the motions of a child star life. And when Family Affair ended, Hollywood tossed her aside like yesterday's newspaper. On Anissa's 15th birthday, no one in her family remembered to buy her a birthday cake. Yeah, highlighting the neglect she experienced at home. Anissa Jones struggled mightily to find her footing outside the spotlight. She wanted to be a normal kid, but how do you do that when all anyone sees is Buffy? We've seen this before with actors like Shirley Temple. She didn't fit into that cute mold anymore, and Hollywood had no interest in helping her during that stage.
I've thrown away my toys.
And so the offers dried up, the support vanished, and Anissa was left to navigate life on her own. In a way, she was doomed from the start. Hollywood only wanted her to be Buffy, and when she grew out of that, they offered no help, no jobs, no advice. No one prepared her for the world outside Tinseltown. It was an identity crisis, wrapped in stolen childhood, all packaged in a cutthroat industry. And sadly, she never did find her way.
Oh boy, at 6, I'm out of the cave. Get to pick another card. Yeah, now I have a chance to win.
On August 28, 1976, at just 18 years old and after a night of partying with friends, little Buffy, Anissa Jones, died of a drug OD at her friend's house in Oceanside, California. The autopsy revealed a fatal OD involving a terrifying combination of the white stuff, angel dust, disco biscuits, and downer drops or sleepy reds. And sorry, I kinda have to code that to get through the PC police, so I hope you understand. It was a lot of drugs. Uppers and downers and you name it. And get this, the San Diego County coroner described this as one of the most severe OD cases ever recorded in the county. And we're talking California in the 1970s. Imagine being in that career for however long, and this poor teenager is the worst death you've had to review. Yeah, it's devastating. The news itself was a horrible shocker, but the details just made it so much worse.
I'm afraid to ask the next question. What was in it?
I forgot.
So obviously Hollywood took responsibility for Anissa's death, right? No finger pointing? Well, no, of course not. But maybe the finger pointing was justified, because justice was served when her doctor, Dr. Don Carlos, was arrested less than a week after her death. He got hit with no fewer than 11 charges, some real winning acts too, including illegally prescribing the sleepy reds to Anissa, plus some other drug-for-profit charges. So was justice fully served? No, not really. Cause get this, the doctor suspiciously died just 4 months after Anissa. But I guess there is no jail time that was going to bring Anissa Jones back. We don't have loads of parting words for Anissa made by family members. What we do have is a reflection from her old Family Affair co-star Johnny Whitaker on her untimely passing. He said he attempted to reach out to her during her difficult times, but he was unable to make a significant impact. Sadly, that was seemingly the only help to come from Tinseltown, and it was from another child actor trying to put the pieces together after acting. So, a tragedy, yes, but is this part of a bigger pattern that's doomed child stars? Is there another case played out in a hauntingly similar way that can help highlight the problems facing child stars with little help from Hollywood? I know what you're thinking, why would people let it happen again, when there was supposed to be laws to stop it from happening at all? Dana Plato, from sitcom Darling to Cautionary Tale.
So am I. Willis, this is war.
Oh yeah, all right.
Dana Plato. Now, if Anissa's story was a tragedy, Dana's was a full-blown Shakespearean epic. Most of you probably remember her as Kimberly Drummond on Different Strokes. She was the sweet, big sister figure that we all loved. The one who could calm Arnold down with just a single look and had all of us wishing that we had a Kimberly in our own lives. And Dana Plato's performance was critical to the show's success, even if it was overshadowed by Arnold, of course, Gary Coleman.
Can I get you something? I just made this for myself. I'm really not hungry, and besides, it's pretty close to dinner. Okay.
But behind that infectious smile, her work life was not so appealing. Producer Ben Starr noted the challenges that she and her co-star Todd Bridges faced during the show, specifically about aging during your, embarrassing teenage years. And Dana was also fighting other battles that no kid should ever face. Her home life was chaotic at best, her relationship with her mother a mess. Unlike today, where child stars might have a trust fund set up responsibly, Dana did not have that agreement. Dana's earnings were not protected. She made a terrible business decision, with no one watching out for her as she signed over power of attorney to an accountant who had no moral hang-ups about stealing every penny. So by the time that big famous show Different Strokes ended and Dana was a household name, she was broke.
Daddy, I'll do anything I have to stay like this. Anything.
Just imagine that. Years on a hit show, one of the most popular in the country, a face known on every TV. And when the credits rolled for the very last time, she was left with nothing but memories and a mountain of lost potential. Right on cue for Dana, desperation set in fast, and Hollywood, well, it had already moved on to the next new shiny star. Yeah, it tends to do that. So Dana did what she could. She took some roles in low-budget films, she posed for Playboy, anything to make ends meet. She wasn't the only one either. I remember hearing that one of the actresses from the Waltons did the same thing, trying to shake off that wholesome image and reclaim a mature identity of her own. It was a Hail Mary to prove to the world, and maybe to herself, that she was more than just Kimberly Drummond, more than the sweet, safe big sis that everyone expected her to be.
What are you guys gonna do with those sleepy bags? Sleep in them?
No, we're gonna hang from the ceiling by our toes like bats.
But as we know, when Hollywood locks you in a box, breaking out can come with consequences. And Dana's story took a shocking, almost surreal turn when in 1991 she robbed a video store. That's right, America's sweetheart Kimberly Drummond, now a petty criminal. How did it come to this? How did the girl who made us all feel safe end up so lost and alone? Well, she felt alone and couldn't find her place in the world. In 1999, at just 34 years old, Dana died of an OD. Her life had unraveled before our eyes, and we were left to piece together the fragments, wondering how it all went so wrong.
Let's not go to college right after school and spend a year in Europe.
Not with my money, you won't.
We have to admit, the parallels to Anissa Jones are shocking and painful. Two beautiful young stars, two heartbreaking stories. Both shaped by an industry that used them up, controlled them, and then tossed them aside. There has to be something in place to protect these young child stars. And that's where our final chapter begins, because the eerie truth is that Dana and Anissa weren't the first, nor the second, nor the 30th probably. Hollywood has been playing this tune for decades, long before their time. Before Dana, before Anissa, there was Jackie. Jackie Coogan, the kid, the original child star whose own brush with Hollywood's dark side was tragic. So tragic it was supposed to change everything, protect the children, or at least that's what we were told. Jackie Coogan, the original child star scandal. You might not recognize the name right away, but if you've ever seen The Kid with Charlie Chaplin, that's him. Back in the 1920s, Coogan wasn't just a star, he was a phenomenon, a household name before Hollywood even had sidewalks. He was the adorable face of innocence, the lovable waif with those big, soulful eyes, who could make an entire theater weep without uttering a single word. And his movies didn't just fill the seats, they raked in thousands. Coogan earned a fortune back in the 20s, and we're not talking about putting coins in the piggy bank for the new Super Nintendo. By today's standards, his earnings would be worth tens of millions. Imagine being that young and that successful, and of course trusting the adults around you to protect what you've earned. You're a kid. You're the kid. That's what kids are supposed to do. And in return, the adults honor that trust. Well, when Coogan turned 21 and adult, he found out the brutal truth. His mother and stepfather had spent it all, every last cent. They had lived lavishly, bought mansions, cars, luxury items, all on his dime, while he had no idea his future was being spent. When he confronted his mom, her response was as cold as it gets. She said, quote, "No promises were ever made to give Jackie anything. Every dollar a kid earns before they turn 21 belongs to the parents." I mean, wow. I was terribly upset when my mom just confiscated my Walkman after I flunked a couple math tests. But this didn't even serve any point, any teaching lesson. No, this was malicious. This wasn't just financial betrayal, this was personal, emotional devastation. And so, Coogan took his family to court, and thank goodness he did win. So we got some justice, well, kind of. Because the money was already gone. It was a hollow victory. But some good had to come from that, right? Well, the entire ordeal was so shocking, so publicly heartbreaking, the stuff of drama shows times 1,000, that it did lead to the creation of the Coogan Law. Lawmakers decided something had to change, and the Coogan Law, officially known as the California Child Actors Bill, was enacted in 1939 to be that change. So what was it, and why was this supposed to be the cure-all to child actor exploitation? To protect the future Anissa Jones. Well, the law required that a portion of a child star's earnings to be set aside in a trust, 15% to be exact. This was a safeguard, a promise that no child would ever be left penniless after years of hard work. But as well-intentioned as that was, it had a glaring flaw. 85% of those earnings were still up for grabs. And when you mix millions of dollars with parents, managers, and an industry built on exploitation, yeah, it's not hard to see how quickly that money disappears. In 2019, there was a revision, further updates reinforcing that the earnings placed in the trust are the sole legal property of the minor. So we just recently provided clear ownership rights and protection against potential mismanagement sneaking in to take that 15% on hold. The Coogan Law was supposed to protect kids from financial abuse, but as we've seen with Anissa and Dana, it just wasn't enough. For every young actor who walked away with a secure future, there were countless others who aged out of fame with nothing but stories of betrayal and a few bucks in a trust. So why didn't it work? What was this law's biggest and most costly oversight? The limits of the Coogan Law. So here's the kicker. The Coogan Law had good intentions, but it was riddled with loopholes. It was like putting a lock on a door but leaving the window completely open. Sure, 15% of a child star's earnings had to be set aside, but that still left the majority for parents, grandparents, managers, studios, anyone who could get close enough to snatch a piece of the pie. The truth is, 15% sounds nice on paper, but when you're a kid bringing in millions, it's not nearly enough. Especially when most child actors struggle to continue acting after they age out of that Hollywood typecasted kid role. And history has shown us that most of these kids saw their earnings vanish into the pockets of the very people who were supposed to protect them. But money is just one piece of the puzzle. The Coogan Law also did nothing for the mental and emotional needs of these kids. There was no therapy, no life skill training, no guidance on how to handle fame, and crucially, no safety net when Hollywood booted them to the curb. Anissa Jones, Dana Plato, Bobby Driscoll, they were all set up for failure, not just financially but psychologically. They entered the industry as kids and left as broken adults, often without even the basic tools to survive in the real world. We didn't even get to dive into Bobby Driscoll's sad story yet. He was once Disney's golden boy, only to be abandoned by the very industry that made him a star. Driscoll's rise to fame began in the 1940s, when he was discovered at just 5 years old. His natural charm and acting talent quickly landed him major roles in films like Song of the South, So Dear to My Heart, 1948, and Treasure Island, where he played Jim Hawkins. But his most iconic role was as the voice and model for Disney's Peter Pan, which solidified his place in Hollywood history.
Where is that villain, Captain Hook? I'll slice him up and throw him to that crocodile.
But like so many child stars, by his early teens, Disney, which had once championed him, dropped him cold. Why? His looks were changing. Acne and puberty didn't fit the studio's image of a wholesome child star. He was also no longer the cute, wide-eyed kid that Hollywood had built his career on. By 16, the job offers dried up, and just like that, he was cast aside. Without work, Driscoll struggled to adjust to life outside the spotlight. By his 20s, he was battling personal demons and trying to find his way back into the industry. But Hollywood had already moved on. Sadly, he was found in an abandoned building in New York City in 1968, passing away at just 31 years old. With no ID, he was buried in an unmarked grave, his former stardom long forgotten, until years later when his identity was finally uncovered. Bobby Driscoll's story is a heartbreaking reminder of how ruthless Hollywood can be. One day, you're Disney's brightest star. The next, you're cast aside and left to fade into obscurity.
Might grow up to be all right.
And here's where the real debate starts. Did Hollywood learn its lesson? Are kids any safer nowadays? The industry has changed, sure, but has it really changed where it matters? We still see young stars burning out, still hear stories of exploitation, and still watch as child actors struggle to find footing as adults. I mean, just look at Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. Look at Justin Bieber. I mean, kids are not set up for success while they're used to line the studio's pockets.
You smell amazing. How old are you?
Thank you.
The Coogan Law was a first step, but it was never a complete solution. And until the industry starts valuing the well-being of its youngest talents over the profits they generate, well, we'll just be waiting for the next tragedy. Nowadays, with social media, even more kids are being exposed to quick fame and sometimes without any oversight. And so, in 2024, another expansion to the Coogan Law happened. Recognizing the evolving landscape of entertainment, California expanded the Coogan Law to include child social media content creators. This amendment ensures that minors earning income through online platforms receive similar financial protections as traditional child actors.
Children.
The sad truth is, as long as Hollywood sees kids as a product, there will always be a price to pay, and too often, it's the kids themselves who pay it. Anissa Jones, Dana Plato, Jackie Coogan. Their stories are reminders that the spotlight isn't always warm. Hollywood is great at making stars, but not great at saving them when things go wrong.
This ship right now. Then I say cut the throats.
The Coogan Law was a start, but it didn't fix the system. And while there have been improvements, the truth is the dangers of child stardom are still very, very real. So what do you think? Has Hollywood done enough or anything to protect its youngest talents? Or is there still a long way to go? Should the kids themselves be blamed for choosing this life, when most frequently it's the parents making the decision to even start show business at all? Please let me know in the comments below, because we here at Do You Remember are nothing without you. Hey, if you enjoyed the deep dive, which we sure hope you did, please hit that little thumbs up icon. It really helps our channel a ton. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a trip down memory lane. Until next time, I'm Nostalgic Nick, reminding you to cherish the good times, but never forget the lessons history has to teach us. And from all of us here at Do You Remember, thanks so much for watching. Bye now.